Hey class, we have one last video here, and I hope you are all well, um, and I hope that we'll be able to see you again in the fall. Um, Hopefully you're safe right now, and you're well. But what I wanted to do today is to cover the last two grammar lessons in Unit 10. And if you have time this summer, you can spend some time learning about these. I'm going to cover each one just briefly, just a little brief lesson on each one, and then you can do the exercises in the book. We will cover one set of exercises, and that will be the part 2 for each lesson. And then you can do the other ones on your own. As you probably remember, some of those lessons have to do with using this grammar in conversation. So if you have someone in your house, in your apartment, that speaks English well enough and can understand the lesson, then you can practice with them and practice these lessons. Okay? You can see here on this document I have what we will be covering. We're going to start on lesson B in Unit 10, and I'll put the page here. This is page 126. Whoops, 126. And we're going to be covering a topic called conditionals. We've talked about conditionals before. It's not important that you remember that word, conditional. It's just important that you recognize what a conditional is and how they're used. All right, so don't worry about, as we always say, don't worry about the word conditional. Just pay attention to how it's used. But one important thing to know is if you see the word conditional used, think of the word if, because we're talking about if something happens, then something else will happen, right? So something needs to happen first for the next thing to happen. If something happens, then this will happen, okay? So let's just start by, if you'll look here at this first question, and of course the answer is no, probably, because there's probably not a lot of weddings going on right now. There probably are some, but just follow along with me here. And don't worry about the word conditional or what that is right now. Let's just think through this with me, okay? So if I were to ask you this question that's highlighted here in blue, are you going to a wedding this weekend? And your answer is no, okay? Move here to the next sentence. And let me ask it a different way. Is there a possibility you will go to a wedding this weekend? So possibility. Is it even possible? Is there a chance you will go to a wedding? And again, you answer no. Let me ask you another question. Let me ask it this way, using a condition, okay? And again, let's just pretend we're having a conversation. So now I'm going to ask you a different question, but using a conditional. If you went to a wedding this weekend, what kind of gift would you take? Now, maybe in your country and in many other countries, it's appropriate to give money, cash. So you answer cash. If you went to a wedding this weekend, what kind of gift would you give? Cash. So if I wanted to write that as a conditional statement, if I wanted to use if, this is how I would say it here. If I went to a wedding this weekend, I would take cash. Okay, you see that? Now notice the verbs in the sentence. Okay, if I went, what tense is went? That's right. It's past tense. Okay. So it's important to see that. If I went, not if I go to a wedding this weekend. You can say that, but that's not what we're doing right now. Okay. We're using if I went to a wedding this weekend, I would take cash. The reason why we're doing that, and I'll explain this more in just a minute, the reason why we're using went and would is because we're talking about possibility. Okay? All right. So stay with me. We're going to move on to another part of the teaching here. I want you to think about this. Now let's talk about, instead of you, let's talk about someone else. Is a man named Manute Bol. Manute Bol, see here. Manute Bol is from South Sudan. He has a lot of Sudanese friends who are planning to get married soon. Is there a chance that Manute will go to a wedding this weekend? Yes. Okay. He's young. He's in his 20s. Maybe he has many friends who are getting married. And so, is there a possibility that he will go to a wedding this weekend? Yes. Okay. So now we're not talking about, now we're talking about something being possible. In the previous example up here, in this example, we were talking about something not being possible. So we ended up saying, if I went to a wedding this weekend, I would take cash. Okay? It's not possible. But here we're talking about Manute. And Manute has a lot of friends. They're all at the age where you get married normally, oftentimes. And so he is going, there is a possibility he will go to a wedding this weekend. Now, what kind of gift would he take? He would take cash. Okay, so here, let's look at the sentence we create here. Uh-oh. Let me fix this. If Manute goes to a wedding this weekend, he will take cash as a gift. Okay, now I want you to notice something here. Okay, let me make this bold type. All right, in this sentence, I said, if I went to a wedding this weekend, I would take cash. Here, we're talking about Manute again. Notice the difference. If Manute goes to a wedding this weekend, he will take cash as a gift. Okay, what's the difference? What's the difference between the two? Well, if your answer is that in this first sentence, in the if clause, they use the past tense. And here in the second sentence about Manute, in the if clause, they use the present tense. You're right. That is a very important difference. This first sentence is about something. It's a conditional sentence about something that's not possible. Okay? If I went to a wedding, remember we're saying, no, I'm not going to a wedding. And I don't think I'm going to go to a wedding. If I went to a wedding, I would take cash. So I'm thinking, if somehow I went to a wedding, I would take cash. But this is not real. We call this unreal. All right, impossible. But here about Manute, again, present tense. If Manute goes to a wedding, there is a very good possibility he will go. And this is the next difference, he will take cash. Up here, in the impossible, I would take cash. So that's an important difference there too. If I went, I would. If Manute goes, he will. Okay? So that's the big difference you can see. So this is how we break that down. Okay? I just took the sentences here. The first one we call future real conditional. And again, you don't have to remember that. You just have to recognize the key words in the sentence and how they're used. So In the future real conditional, we use if plus the subject plus the present tense, comma, here, then another subject plus the future tense. This means something is possible. This is the sentence we just looked at, okay? So this is where we have, and look here, if Manute goes, okay? That's the most important part. To a wedding this weekend is not as important. It just finishes the thought. But for the grammar here, if Manute goes to a wedding this weekend, comma, and then here's the subject, he, and then future tense, will take cash as a gift. Okay? Now, again, compare that to the unreal, the impossible. Okay? And again, let me put that here too. This is impossible. That's an easier way to I can't get my words out. That's an easier way to remember this, probably for you. Possible versus impossible. The second example is impossible. And this is where we use if plus the subject plus past tense, comma, plus the subject with would, and then the base form of the verb. All right, the present tense. Okay. So here we have if Manute went to a wedding this weekend, he would take cash as a gift. Okay. If it's possible, again, up here, if it's possible, we say if Manute goes, present tense, to a wedding this weekend, he will take cash as a gift. If it's not really possible, and we know that in our mind, then we have to change how we say it. If Manute went to a wedding this weekend, he would take cash as a gift. He's that kind of person. That's what he does in his culture. But he's probably not going to go to a wedding this weekend. So we use past tense and would. If he is going to go, or there is a good possibility that he will, we say if Manute goes, he will take cash as a gift. We use present tense with will. Okay? Okay, now what I would like you to do is in your book, again, this is page 126. Okay, page 126. On the practice part here, part 2 on page 126, if you can see that. I want you to do those exercises, okay? And then pause the video and come back, and I'll have the answers for you, okay? And we'll just do that one, and you can do the other exercises on your own time, okay? So pause the video right now. Again, page 126. Do part 2A, where you fill in those blanks. There's number 1 is done for you. Actually, let's just read number 1. It says, Paul's high school graduation is tomorrow. His friend Luis has to work. So is Luis going to come? Is it possible for Luis to come? No. Okay. Luis wishes he could go to Paul's graduation. Okay. Luis wishes he could go. Let's see here. So we're talking about the present unreal. It's impossible. He wishes he could go, but he can't. Okay? And by the way, I just realized something. This here, if we could state this differently, so I want to show you this. To express the impossible, let me just write that example here. Luis wishes he could go to Paul's graduation. Okay, now that's different than the example I just gave you expressing something impossible. Sorry, I got to plug my computer in before I lose my power. That's different. It's a different way to say this sentence, okay? Or to say the impossible, okay? So let's do this for a second. Luis, notice this is present tense, okay? And this is something, if you look in your book in the examples at the top, you'll see that something that is not possible, you can use the present tense, okay? And then the key thing, the most important thing is he wishes he could go, okay? Not sure why that just happened. He wishes he could go, okay? Just like here, he would take cash as a gift, all right? Let's look at another example of that, all right, really quick, before I turn you loose on the exercises, okay? There's an example in your book. Samira wishes her cousin would come to her wedding. Okay? Same thing, would or could, okay? She wishes. And again, the important thing here is wish, and we'll see this in the next lesson. Wish expresses something that's not possible. Hope, when we use the word hope, something is possible, okay? I just realized, oh my gosh, I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry, folks. Okay, ignore all that. Okay, sorry. We're just going to do this in real time, and we're not going to edit this. But forget that. That was actually the next lesson. I'm sorry, I got off track here, and I was looking at my book, which was turned to lesson C. Back on lesson B. Look at number 1. Okay, I'm so sorry. Number 1 again, and I'm sorry. This is on page 124. Part 2A, number 1 reads this. Sorry. The Patels are from India, but they live in the United States now. They are planning a wedding for their daughter, Parveen. If they lived in India, the groom's family would pay for the wedding. So here it is. If they lived in India, comma, the groom's family would pay for the wedding. Okay. Now, again, notice this is number 1 again for part 2A, and again we're on page 124. Okay, this is on 124. Look at that. This is the answer for number 1. Is that possible or impossible? Is it real or unreal? If they lived in India, the groom's family would pay for the wedding. Okay? That's right. If you said it's impossible or the present unreal, you're right. And the way you know is this word, right? Would. They would pay for the wedding. Okay? And here, just like if Manute went, we had if they lived. Okay? Past tense. All right? It's the subject plus the past tense with the comma, and then the subject, and they would pay for the wedding. Okay? Okay, that's number 1. Again, I'm so sorry for the mix-up. We're on page 124 for the exercise. What I want you to do now is to stop the video and look over those. There's 6 of them. We just did number 1. And I want you to do 2 through 6. And then go ahead and pause the video, and when you come back, we'll look at the answers. Okay? Okay. Hopefully you were able to finish the exercises for 2A on page 124. Here are the answers there. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and it's going to squeeze out the screen for a second. Whoops. Don't do that. There. All right. So there's number one again. We just did this one before you paused it. Okay. Here's number two. And this is a story, so we keep going with the idea. The wedding will be in the United States. If the Patels had the wedding in India, the wedding celebration would last 3 days. Here it will last for 1 day. So is that possible or impossible? Is it the real or the unreal? If the Patels had the wedding in India, the wedding celebration would last 3 days. That's right. That's right. It's the not possible, right? Again, we're talking about a family who lives in America now, but they're from India. If they were in India, this is how it would happen, but it's not possible. They live here now. It's too expensive to go all the way back to India to have a wedding. So you do it here. But if they were in India, this is how it would happen. Okay. Here's number three. The Patels don't have a lot of money. If they were rich, they would invite 300 people. Instead, they will invite about 150 people. Okay. If they were rich, all right, they would invite. All right. So again, this is not possible. Okay. This is not a possible situation. So we're using if plus the past tense. And then in the second clause, we're using would plus the base form of the verb. Okay. And then here's number four. The Patels are planning to have music for the reception. If a band doesn't charge too much, they will have live music. All right, so now you should notice a change in the story and in the possibility, all right, or the real versus the unreal. If a band doesn't charge, okay, that's present tense. So there's a change there. This is possible. If the band doesn't charge too much, they will have live music. Not they would have. They will have. This is possible. Will is stronger, right? Okay. Number five. It's possible that the weather will be nice on the day of the wedding. If the weather is nice, they will have the ceremony outside. Again, this is possible. And they even say it at the beginning, number five. It's possible, right? You have that idea. So if the weather is nice, present tense, they will have the ceremony outside. So future, okay? And then number six, Parveen and her new husband will live in their own apartment. If they were in India, now is that possible? No. It's unreal. It's not something they're going to do. They're not going to move to India now. They live here. If they were in India, they would live with the groom's parents. Okay? They would live with the groom's parents. Okay. Let me shrink that back. I know that was a little fast, but what I would like you to do then is when you have time to go through the rest of the lesson, and that's continues on page 125, and you can again, if there's someone in your household who can do this with you, you can practice using the unreal versus real conditional, present versus future idea, okay? But what I would like to do now is to finish with lesson C. And this is something similar. It's a similar idea, and so hopefully this won't be too confusing doing these together. But it's how to use the words hope and wish. Okay, hope expresses something that's possible. This is a little bit easier than the lesson B. Hope expresses something possible, and wish expresses something impossible. Okay, that's basically what this boils down to. Okay, so just take a look at the first one. If we're using the word hope, and again, I'm sorry, moving too fast here. This is page 126. All right, if you want to look in your book, but just watch the screen for right now. Okay, I hope to go to the movies this weekend, but I may have too much work to do. What do you hope you can do this weekend? If I were to ask you, so I'm saying I hope to go to the movies this weekend, but I may have too much work to do. So what if I ask you, what do you hope to do this weekend? Let's say there's someone named Maria in our class. Maria hopes to spend time with her sister. Okay? She hopes to spend time with her sister. It's possible. She hopes to. Now, compare that to wish. I wish I could, and notice something that happens here. Okay? Here we had, I hope to go. Okay? Hope, and then it's the infinitive, to go, right? Here, I wish I could. All right. Remember in the previous lesson, in lesson B, when we're using could, sorry about that. When we're using could, we're talking about things that are not possible or unreal. Okay. So I wish I could buy a house, but houses are too expensive. Okay. So I'm talking about now something that's probably not going to happen. All right. It's unreal. So I use wish with could. And we'll talk about it in a minute. I could also use would. All right. I wish he would, or I wish someone would do something. Now, what do you wish you could do? Okay. Could. Again, it's that idea of something that's not quite real or possible. Again, let's pretend we have someone named Johannes in our class. Johannes wishes he could travel to his home country in the future. Now, is that possible? Maybe not. It's very expensive to travel to your home country. So notice again, wish goes with could. Okay, Johannes wishes he could. Again, back up here. Maria hopes to spend. All right. So when we're talking about possible, we're going to use hope and then the infinitive, to spend. Hopes to spend. If it's not quite real, probably not going to happen, present tense plus the could or would. All right. Now, with these two examples, you can see the differences already. Let's not focus on all of that here, but just listen to them and listen to how they're different. I hope I have time to walk in the park this evening. I hope I do. Do I feel very sure about it, very certain about it? Yeah, a little bit. I hope I do. I hope I have time. But listen to this one and how it's different. I wish I had time to walk in the park this evening. Think about what I would say after that sentence. Oh, I wish I had time to walk in the park this evening, but I have too much to do. Think about how that's different from the idea of hope. I hope I have time to walk in the park this evening. I have some things to do, but I should be able to finish them in time. You see just how when you use the word hope, it brings to mind a different feeling as opposed to wish. Wish it's just not possible when you use wish, whatever it is you're wanting to do. Okay. So you already said hope versus wish. We use hope to talk about possible situations, and wish is used to talk about situations that just aren't possible. Okay? They're unreal. And so here's another example. And again, I'm moving pretty fast through this one because this one I think is a little easier and you probably understand. But let's just look at these last examples. So again, if we want to express something that's possible, look at this example. Nick. Nick hopes he can go to the party. Now again, think about how that's different from this. Nick wishes he could go to the party. Now think about what you would say after that. Nick wishes he could go to the party, but like you want to say but afterward and say why he can't. Nick wishes he could go to the party, but he has something else to do that night. Right? That's different from this. Nick hopes he can go to the party. He has to work till 7 p.m., but he should have time to get there. You see? Hope versus wish. They have a different feeling behind them. Now, we can also say this sentence you can say it a little differently. Here, Nick hopes he will come to the party. Now, what if it's Nick's party? Okay, what if Nick is giving the party and his friend Joe has been invited, but Joe has to work till 7 p.m. But he would have time to still get to the party. The party doesn't start till 8. Okay. Notice here we have Nick hopes he can go to the party. All right. Now maybe he's talking about himself there, but maybe he's also talking about his friend Joe. It could be either way. So let's say he is talking about his friend Joe. Nick hopes he can go to the party. Nick hopes Joe can go to the party. Another way of saying that, which means the same thing. Nick hopes Joe will come to the party. Okay? Nick hopes Joe will come to the party. You can use, in other words, you can use the future tense here, will come. And it basically means the same. We use them more or less the same way. Can come to the party, will come to the party. If we're just in conversation, either one of those, can come or will come, would come out of my mouth, most likely. So it's just important to recognize that and that you can use either one. Same thing here. If we're talking about that it's not possible and Nick wishes he could go to the party. Again, he can be talking about himself here. He could be talking about his friend Joe as well. Let's say he's talking about Joe. Nick wishes Joe could go to the party. Okay. You could also say that differently though, but it means basically the same thing here. Nick wishes he would come to the party. Now, there is a slight difference between could and would. Okay, would expresses the something about the will, like Joe wants to come or he doesn't want to come. So if you're saying Nick wishes he would come to the party, and let's say the he here is Joe, Nick wishes Joe would come to the party. What that is saying is that Joe doesn't really want to come. He's too tired. He just wants to stay home, or whatever the reason is. Okay. Here, though, could means there's something keeping Joe from coming to the party. Joe has to work, or he has to work late. Nick wishes Joe could come to the party. It's just not possible. But this one's also not possible either. Joe wishes he would come to the party. It's not possible because Joe doesn't want to. So for Nick, it's still not possible for his friend to come. Okay? I hope that makes sense. Again, I know that's a little fast, but it's also summertime, and I know you probably don't want to spend all your time studying this. So, and I think you probably have a good handle on this lesson just by your advanced English already, just because you use English well already. So what I want you to do is to take this understanding that you've learned here about the difference between hope and wish, and I want you to do, now we're on page 126. 126, exercise practice 2A on 126 and do that. But again, just like last time, let's do number 1 together. Number 1 reads, Paul's high school graduation is tomorrow. Remember, we just did this one. His friend Luis has to work. Luis wishes he could go to Paul's graduation. Okay. Look, we've got wishes, and we've got could. Okay. So is this possible or impossible? It's not possible. Why? Well, because Luis has to work. Luis has a job. He can't get away from the job. Can't take time off. So Luis wishes he could go to Paul's graduation, but he has a job and he has to work. Okay. Now, if we change that, let's just for fun, if we needed to make this hopes, Luis hopes he could go to Paul's graduation, we would have to change could too, right? Hopes he can go to Paul's graduation. Maybe his job, maybe graduation is at 10 o'clock in the morning, and maybe Luis works during the night, but he's done at 8 a.m. But he's going to be really tired because he's worked all night, and he has to go home and he has to shower and get ready. And by the time that's all over, he may be late. But there's a chance. It's possible he can make it. So Luis hopes he can go to Paul's graduation. All right? You could say it that way if the situation allows you to say it that way. Okay? So I want you to pause the video now, finish that exercise, and then we'll look at the answers in just a minute. Page 126. Okay? All right. So here is, we'll do just like we did before. I'm going to make this a little bigger. Squeeze me out of the screen. Oops. Like that again. No. All right. That'll work. So there's number 1 we just did. Now here's number 2. Paul's father has asked for a day off so that he can attend his son's graduation. He hopes he gets the day off. Okay? Now, Paul's father has asked for the day off, so it is possible that he will get the time away from work. So we would use hopes and then present tense gets the day off. Now, Paul's grandfather has been sick. He's not sure. So there's your clue. He's not sure he will attend the graduation. Paul hopes his grandfather will attend the ceremony. Okay? His grandfather has been sick, but we're not sure. So that means it's possible, but maybe not. Okay? It would be different if it said Paul's grandfather is sick and is not able to come to the graduation. Then it would say Paul wishes his grandfather would attend the ceremony, but it's not possible. He is sick. Okay? This one, he has been sick. So he's been sick in the past. Notice it's present perfect. And he's still got some sickness hanging around, still making him a little sick. So we're not sure. But it's possible. Okay? Number 4, the graduation ceremony will be outside. Paul hopes it will not rain. Okay? So it's possible it could rain, I guess. So Paul hopes that it will not rain. Notice that we're using not there. That makes it the negative. So he hopes it won't rain. All right? But it is possible. Okay? Number 5, Paul's parents would like to buy him a new car, but they can't afford it. They wish they could buy him a new car. All right? So it's certain that they cannot do something. Right? So this is where we would use wish. Okay? It's not possible that they can buy a car. They don't have the money. So they wish they could buy him a car. Okay? Paul wasn't accepted, number 6, to the university, so he will go to a community college. Is it possible for him to go to the university this year? No, he was not accepted. So we're going to talk about he's wishing for something. Paul wishes he could go to the university, okay? But it's not possible, this year at least. And then lastly, it's possible that Paul will be able to transfer to the university in 2 years. He hopes he can transfer in 2 years. Okay? Now, is it possible? It is possible. He will be able to transfer to the university in 2 years. He hopes he can transfer in 2 years. Okay? All right? So, it's not unreal. It's not a wish. It's a real hope. It's something that is possible. It's possible that Paul will be able to transfer in 2 years. So he hopes for it. Okay? Drop back. Bring myself back in. Okay. Well, I know that was maybe a little fast, but I hope that's helpful. This is all the lessons we're going to do for now. This finishes the last of the grammar. Again, this is the last of the grammar lessons for the entire book. So that at least gives you something that you can work on if you have time this summer to go through that. And I'll make myself a little bit bigger here. My wife's sending me a text. We hope to see you in the fall. We hope that things are normal and we can have our classes. And I'm praying for you. Pray that your families are safe and that you're healthy. And I miss you all. So I hope to see you soon. Okay? God bless you. And we will hopefully see each other soon.